Hello, welcome to another episode of Maximizing Excellence. My name's Lori Harris, and today we've got two hosts. And so it's going to be myself and my business partner, Lynn Whitesell. Say hello, Lynn.
Hello. Welcome to our Maximize Excellence podcast today. We're excited for this one.
We are. Today we're going to be talking about professional coaching. And there's lots of topics, kind of segments that we're going to cover today. And so really briefly, we're going to talk about what is professional coaching, the history of coaching. We're going to talk about the common pitfalls, what it takes to be effective in coaching, the types of coaching that there are, and some of the principles and methods and theories, and the science-based practices as well. The difference between internal and external coaching, the pros and cons of virtual versus in-person coaching, the common reasons a company or an individual would hire a coach, a professional coach, the types of assessments that in coaching that a person would normally go through or a team would go through, the state of readiness, which is a very key critical assessment, and then the benefits and results that people and organizations can realize from coaching. So let's get started, Lynn. How's that?
That's great. Let's start at the beginning. What in the world is professional coaching as compared to other types of coaching? Well, it's collaborative, it's solution focused, and it really aims to enhance a person's personal growth, their professional growth, their performance, their overall effectiveness in a very supportive environment. Kind of a summary of what it entails would be the coaching relationship. It starts with that. So it involves a partnership between, let's hope, a trained and a credentialed coach and a coachee. The client is a coachee. And the coach acts as a sort of a facilitator, providing feedback and asking thought-provoking questions and encouraging self-discovery. The importance of thought-provoking questions in coaching is paramount. It starts with goal setting. What is it that the coachee specifically wants and needs to obtain? What are the goals that we're going toward in the coaching? Now, they'll remain flexible. They could change, but what's our starting point? What are we aiming for? And self-awareness. Coaches really help those coachees develop greater self-awareness. We help them explore their values, their beliefs, their strengths, their weaknesses, their behavioral patterns, why they do what they do, what makes that person their button pusher. So all of those things, there's a lot of self-exploration that happens in professional coaching. And action planning also happens in professional coaching. Coaches work with the coachees to help them set plans and set strategies to achieve those goals and those milestones, and set the milestones and identify the resources they'll need, and identify up front maybe what some of the pitfalls or obstacles may be that we'll face and how we'll overcome those as we go through the coaching. Coaches are your accountability partner. You need to be willing. You have to be willing to enter into coaching, and your coach will help hold you accountable for those things you've promised yourself that you're going to do. It's a non-directive approach. Again, the questioning and helping you discover answers for yourself is a really big component of coaching. And also great coaches are continuous learners themselves and always looking to stay abreast of what's most current and best practice in professional coaching. And I can't end the discussion on what is professional coaching without talking about ethical standards. Reputable coaches adhere to ethical standards and codes of conduct, ensuring integrity and professionalism of the coaching relationship throughout.
Excellent.
So that's professional coaching in a little...
And we always say simply complex.
Yes.
Absolutely. Coaching is simply complex and not at all minutia, never, ever, and always unique.
Yes, always unique because every individual in every company is
So,
unique.
so Lynn, let's roll it back. Okay. I want to go into the history of professional coaching. And so the history it's just this beautiful dynamic evolution that actually goes back to the ancients. Let's think about Socrates, who coached Plato and Aristotle, Zeno, and then let's get forward to John Locke and some of the other philosophers like modern day today, Tom Morris. These guys in philosophy actually set the stage, and many of their theories, many of their philosophies are now very foundational in the use of some of the scientific practices in psychology, management, and consulting when it comes to coaching people and organizations. And so while those coaching were designed and developed around those ancient origins, there still is an emergence that we see key milestones over time. And most of it truly was for us, especially now, that's influenced who we are and how we behave and how we manage and how we consult as professional coaches. So early in the 20th century, the roots of coaching were linked to sports and coaches in sports. And for me, I want to go back to just some of this maybe 80s, 70s, and 60s when you had John Wooden and Vince Lombardi and Woody Hayes, and then people like Nancy Lieberman and Pat Summitt and Kim McCulkey, and those individuals that really set the stage for excellence in athletic coaching and sports coaching. And some of that was seen, especially in the arenas of and the foundation of motivation and goal setting, skill enhancement. Those things apply in athletics as they do in organizational and business professional coaching. And then I also want to mention, quite interestingly, there was one lady who was quite influential, and she actually influenced the mid-century coaches, Mary Parker Follett, who is known as the mother of modern management. She actually was consulted by Peter Drucker, who in the mid 20th century really became prominent. And if you read any of Peter's books, every now and then he'll mention her. And she was quite influential in his development, and he became to be one of the gurus of coaching in the mid-century. And that played into a lot of industrialization. It also played into them adopting coaching techniques to help leaders and executives improve their management, their behavior, and their leadership skills. And then, if you fast forward into the 1970s, you had Tim Gallwey with the inner game. Again, this was a tennis coach, but the concept of the inner game, that psychological piece that really came into play and really emphasized the importance of self-awareness and self-mastery and mindset and focusing on achievement of peak performance at your highest and best. So again, more groundwork laid on that foundation that moved us into the 80s. So it was kind of decade by decade that we saw a lot of these influences evolve. I would even say intertwine and correlate to one another. In the 80s, we had people like Thomas Leonard, Stephen Covey, Philip Cotter, and those applications and principles to the corporate world and business that gained momentum during that time. And executives, now even down to the level of managers and high potentials, they started to recognize the value of coaching for leadership development, performance improvement, and career advancement versus sometimes just that disciplinary reason why coaches were brought in, or it was kept quiet. It was kind of under the radar in the other earlier years when some of these very large corporate executives had coaches as well. They call them consultants back in those days. And now we're beginning to see the emergence of the title of coach. And then moving into the 90s, Now we've got formality, the formality around certification, the formality around, just like a CPA or an attorney has their certification accreditation, now therefore do professional coaches. And it's not just something you go get off the internet. It is very, very scholar approach and very intensive, and investments are made. But the International Coaching Federation was established and founded in 1995. It is pivotal. It is where coaches go to develop and the professionalization of coaching. So they set the standard for all types. We're going to talk about types here in a minute, various types of coaching. They established, like Lynn mentioned, the ethical standards, the core competencies, and that certification process, which contributes to the credibility and the standardization of coaching practices today. And that moves us into the current day, 2000 to present. So people like Marshall Goldsmith, who have become a guru in executive coaching and leadership coaching. And in the 21st century, we've really witnessed a very quick evolution, if not even innovative approach to specializations that dive into executive coaching, leadership coaching. So we're going to talk about some of those types of coachings in a bit here. But with that specialization, it also dove into various industries and sectors to very, very much address those specific organizational challenges and circumstances that were arising because of moving out of industrialization and into this creative society. And then in the mid 2000s, we started to see positive psychology come into play. And now we're looking at focusing on strengths and well-being, that optimal human functioning, becoming integrated into these coaching methodologies that we have, and then shifting the emphasis with the strength-based approach to coaching and personal development, and how you can apply KPIs, which we're going to talk about in a bit, and how you can apply these goals and the objectives in order to be able to achieve and also achieve collectively. And then now it's also recognized in academia. So you can see across the world in a lot of our educational institutions where there are certifications and accreditations for coaching from various academic institutions. So now we also have the ability to go and extend and advance, as well as continue to enhance our professional certifications, which we're required to do, by the way, with ICF. Coming into and keeping pace with technology advancements, there's virtual coaching. You know, COVID really pushed that out on the table. And now we've got both in-person and virtual coaching. We're going to talk about that. And then emphasis on inclusiveness, emphasis on that ability to be diverse in the organization, and growing emphasis on these principles into our coaching practices, and increasingly addressing these situations and circumstances that are related to those human behaviors, the very much positive psychology of it all, and understanding how that plays out as well. So the history is important to understand if you truly are looking to find that type of professional coach that can truly take you and your organization to the next level, that can truly define excellence, that can truly help you transform in your journey of self-mastery and self-awareness so that you can better lead at your highest and best and be more effective as a leader at any level in the organization. So with that, Lynn, why don't we, now that we've kind of gone back and forward with this and played with it, why don't we talk about some of those pitfalls?
Yeah, absolutely. So coaching has evolved tremendously, as Lori just spoke to us about. There have always been potential pitfalls. And so it's best to be aware of those potential pitfalls so we can prevent and avoid those pitfalls. One of them is lack of clear goals and objectives. Coaching Just like anything else, without a clear end in sight, you'll end up somewhere, but where? You want to end up where you want to be. And so there's a pitfall that without these set goals and objectives, coaching sessions lack definition, they lack focus. They make it difficult to measure progress, achieve the outcomes that are desired because you don't know what's desired. So overcoming this is, of course, setting those goals at the beginning of the coaching engagement and changing them with the coachee's evolving goals and the evolving goals of the coaching program itself. We're aware that it does change. Lack of trust and rapport, that's a tremendous pitfall. If there's a lack of trust and rapport between the coach and the coachee, there will be a failure. And that will be evident pretty darn quickly that there is a failure. So overcoming this, building trust and rapport through active listening on the coach's part and the coachee's part, by the way, with empathy, creating that safe and non-judgmental environment to support it, establishing clear boundaries and expectations, maintaining confidentiality. We make sure that we sign confidentiality as part of our contracting process with coaching. Lori mentioned ICF and a lot of the parameters that ICF has in place. You'll want to make sure that your coach follows those parameters so that you can have that trust and rapport. Resistance to change. So the whole point of coaching is to help a coachee change a behavior, an action, a reaction, whatever it may be. Coaching is about change and progress. You don't have progress without change. So a lack of or a resistance to change, a lack of wanting change can really put your coaching program on the struggle bus, so to say. It can hinder progress. It can hinder growth. So how to overcome this is to explore the coachee's expectations and motivations and fears, their potential resistance, help them think ahead of time. Where may I resist? Why might I resist change? And help them understand the benefits of change and develop that growth mindset, which is what coaching is really all about. So resistance to change can derail, and thinking about it beforehand can really help prevent falling into that pitfall. If there's a lack of accountability, without proper accountability measures, coachees may struggle to follow through on their commitments. They get busy. They are busy. Oh, I didn't do that. So accountability here is paramount. So establishing ahead of time accountability structures, such as maybe regular check-ins and progress reports and consequences. What are the consequences if I don't, non-compliance? I don't do what I said I would do. What are the consequences to that? We also like to celebrate small wins along the way to maintain motivation. We're all human, and motivation and momentum are very, very important. Coaching really gets rolling. You set the goals, you determine where you might resist, you move forward. If there are unrealistic expectations from coaching, that could also be a derailer. Unrealistic expectations from the coach or the coachee on either part can lead to disappointment. It can lead to frustration. It can lead to a breakdown of the coaching process and the communication itself. So to overcome this, to prevent this, setting those clear and realistic expectations at the outset, again, as part of the contracting process for your coaching plan and what it's going to look like for you, setting that ahead of time before we start to set the expectations. If there's a lack of a follow through, coachees may struggle to implement the strategies and action plans that were developed. So that lack of follow through, again, leads to a lack of tangible progress. So coaches really work hard to encourage coachees to develop specific action plans and deadlines and accountability measures and follow through on a regular basis. And so taking accountability really prevents that lack of follow through and being responsible for what you say you're going to do and doing it. Oh my goodness, coach overstepping boundaries. That could be a pitfall. Coaches may inadvertently overstep their boundaries, provide unsolicited advice, impose their own values, their own beliefs, address areas outside of their expertise. So coaches have to be very aware to respect the boundaries of the coaching relationship, avoid crossing into mentoring or consulting or counseling, which are different things. And when it becomes clinical, coaches must pass the baton to an appropriate professional in the health field. Those were some of the pitfalls, ways to prevent and overcome. And, we find it interesting as coaches that have been coaching for a long time. We've both seen many of those pitfalls, and we've learned along the way how to prevent them or how to help the coachee see that those could become issues so that they don't become issues.
So take it from that and evolve it into effectiveness. So what makes it effective? What makes coaching effective?
You know what makes it effective first and foremost? A capable, credible coach and a willing and ready coachee.
Yes.
Without those, nothing else I say matters whatsoever. Those two things. In the old days, going back to your history lesson, and when I was first a coach, and probably you too, coaching was under the covers, and it was meant to fix somebody. And if they weren't fixed, this is a last-ditch effort, and we're going to fire them.
Yeah.
Coaching has evolved so much, so rapidly since then that it is sought after. People want it. It's a badge of honor to say, my company values me so much that they're going to engage me in coaching to help me become even better, to help my leadership skills evolve even more. So effective, what makes professional coaching effective? Number one, a structured process. Coaching is not willy-nilly. Coaching is flexible. Very flexible at times. A coaching process, a structured process, effective coaching follows that structured process. Goal setting, which we talked about. Assessment. Before we start prescribing, we have to diagnose, just like a physician. So assessments are a part of coaching. What is the action plan? How is it going to be implemented? How is it going to be reviewed? Those are some of the things in the roadmap, that structured roadmap for coaching. A customized approach. Each coachee, each company is different. Mm-hmm. And so if you have a coaching program and it's just a stamp, here's your coaching program. We delete this name, put your name. Delete your name, put this name. That's not a customized approach. So every person, every leader, every individual undergoing professional coaching has different needs. And the coaching program will remain structured and follow the same structured format. The content of what's in that structured format could and will differ in some way. So that customized approach, I think, really helps make it an effective program. Active listening and observation. Skilled coaches are the best listeners. Skilled coaches have really big ears, maybe not literally, but they have really big ears. They're really observing, paying close attention to both the verbal and the nonverbal, which can be seen in person or on video, allowing them to identify underlying issues, blind spots, enabling to provide more insightful feedback and more insightful guidance so that coach remains very diligent in their active listening and their observation of the coachee. And they ask really powerful questions. They ask thought-provoking questions that really challenge the coachee's assumptions. In a coaching session, if we don't ask at least one question that has a 1 minute wait before answers, it's thought-provoking. So the coachee, you help them be comfortable in taking the moment to form the response. It's not a knee-jerk response. It's a very thoughtful response because the question was powerful enough to cause the coachee to have to think. Powerful questions really help identify underlying issues, motivations, help the coachee really explore the solutions and the insights rather than just rely on the coach to give advice. So it's the coachee exploring and gaining insights, not just a coach giving advice. Objective feedback. Coaches provide objective feedback based on their observations and coachees' goals. The coach in this point is it's not their values, it's the coachee's values. It's not their goals, it's the coachee's goals. So enabling growth by enabling them to make more informed decisions, take effective actions. Accountability and support are very, very important, especially in the life of a busy executive. And we don't want the situation where the coaching plan is the thing that falls by the wayside. We find that it's not. If the coaching is really helpful, is helping that leader go and do and explore and be and become what they wanted, why they engaged in the first place of the program. But if you have a lack of accountability, you have lack of follow through on the account of the coachee. First of all, coach, look at yourself. What's happening here? Secondly, coachee, look at yourself. What's happening there? And together, let's figure out how accountability and support can help the coachee stay on track, overcome obstacles that come up. A trust and rapport. We talked about the trust and rapport already, but that strong, supportive, trust-based relationship is vital and key. Coachees have to feel safe and respected and understood. Measurable outcomes, we've talked about that, but without measurable outcomes, you don't know where you're headed and when you get there. The measurable outcomes, again, may be adjustments along the way. The measurement may change, the outcome may change. And then I can't say it enough, so I'm going to say it again, an ethical practice. An ethical practice makes an effective coaching program. So incorporating these factors into the coaching practice, professional coaches can create that transformative experience that empowers coachees to unlock their full potential, which is really what it's all about.
Effectiveness.
Yes, be effective
each and every day.
Yes.
That was a great overview. Great overview. Very comprehensive. How about we dive in next to the types of professional coaching? And I'll list out some of those and talk briefly about each one of them. And so, with organizations, with businesses, with corporations, with, let's see, what else is there? Nonprofits, all of those different types of ways in which people are leading and impacting and creating and innovating. Professional coaching in organizations, it encompasses various areas and also levels within the organization, as well as within the communities as well. So the types, they're tailored, they're bespoke, they're customized, and it may be somebody that went from being an accountant and now they're taking an executive level position. It may be somebody who's made their way through the ranks and eventually graduates, promotes, progresses, and promotes into that higher level. It may be someone that is young, brilliant, dynamic, and entrepreneurial, and immediately rolls into the CEO and president of a company because they've got a great product. There's lots of different scenarios. So I'm trying to, and I'm sure there's 1,000 more that I didn't mention. Absolutely. But we're going to go ahead and itemize these in a way that might make sense to a lot of different organizations that are out there. So executive coaching focuses on enhancing performance and leadership skills of executives and senior leaders. So if that's you, call us. Leadership coaching targets leaders at various levels to develop their leadership competency, capability, and effectiveness. And team coaching focuses and aims to improve the team dynamics, the collaboration, the co-creation, and the overall performance of that team. High potential coaching is geared towards identifying individuals as having that high potential for future leadership roles. Emerging leaders is absolutely emerging leader coaching is geared towards supporting individuals who are in the early stages of their leadership journey. Employee coaching offers personalized coaching to individual employees to enhance their skills and performance. And by the way, all of these levels that I just talked about, these 6 levels, are absolutely 100% in alignment with the corporate strategy, the corporate philosophies of mission, vision, values, and with those goals and objectives as well. So we definitely will take a look at that. And Lynn mentioned that earlier. She might dive into it some more. And then coming around full circle and wrapping ourselves around is organizational coaching, which focuses on aligning the organizational goals and philosophy, culture, strategy with those leadership initiatives. Career development coaching assists employees in navigating their career paths and achieving professional goals. Change leadership coaching helps leaders manage and navigate through organizational change, by the way, effectively. There's that word again, effectiveness. Team development coaching, it concentrates on fostering collaboration, communication, and cohesiveness within the team. Similar to team coaching, this specifically gets into deep skill sets. Workforce development coaching supports overall employee growth and skills development aligned with organizational objective, and also includes a number of workforce staffing alignment strategies and methods as well. Culture coaching is so brilliant. It's so fun. And it also helps with all these other 11 that I just mentioned. It aids in shaping and reinforcing the organizational culture to align with desired values and behaviors. Absolutely 100% requires an inventory for culture. It requires an inventory for climate and an inventory for engagement, which are all 3 are very unique unto themselves. And culture coaching is priceless for organizations who are seeking to really create that environment that retains, that attracts and retains employees, and is seeking to be sustainable and profitable. And so culture coaching is priceless. Innovation coaching is a lot of fun. It's very, very, very creative. It encourages creative thinking and problem solving within individuals and teams, and often is arts based. And we have a program for you for that as well. Communication intelligence coaching, lots and lots of deep fun here. You dive into understanding the various components of your communication style, how you might adapt over time with your communications, and the way in which you approach that, and also how others are perceiving that and how they might be reacting or responding to that. It also identifies your logic and your resilience, so it pulls in resilience coaching as well. Very, very valuable to the leader, the executive, and those emerging leaders as well. And it also supports that team building and that team performance. And then we can also come in and do ethics coaching, which emphasizes ethical decision-making and behaviors within the workplace. Often we identify that through one of the levers of culture coaching and culture inventory as well. And last but not least is performance management coaching, and that supports leaders and employees in setting and achieving performance goals. So you can see there is a dynamic here and a variety of lots of different types of coaching. Some of them overlay, some of them interlock with one another. They're all supportive of one another, and they all absolutely align with the company, the corporate goals, objectives, philosophies, and strategy as well. And they're all of them are tailored, they're bespoke to the specific needs that can be implemented using models and processes rooted in science-based and best practices in leadership and organizational development that is invaluable for effectiveness in the organization and with its people. So next, I think I want to go right into, if it's all right, Lynn, and I want to kind of dive into, I mentioned science-based practices for executive coaching. And would it be all right if I just dive right in?
I think it's a good place.
Awesome. So with this, we're looking at, again, these are decades of studies that have been done that are very specific to this coaching, that's based on a lot of that history. And some of the people I didn't even mention, there's just, a line list of great researchers that have done some very powerful work, especially in our 20th and 21st century. So some of those are an individualized approach, again, tailoring those coaching programs to the specific needs, goals, and situations, circumstances for each leader, each executive, each employee, because one size does not fit all. And that one size fits all approach may not result in effectiveness. It may result in chaos, it may result in frustration, and it may result in attrition. So be mindful of that. Assessments and feedbacks are an absolute, beginning with a comprehensive assessment program of the strengths, the development areas, the styles, using feedback from others, peers, subordinates, superiors. That gives an opportunity to really dive in and identify those key areas for leveraging, for enhancing, for stretching into, and really growing and learning. It also gives the ability for co-creating, for collaborating, and for actually achieving, which is going to be powerful. Clear goals, we've talked about that. Collaborative partnership, action-oriented plans. So coaching is not just that individual going through a program. Coaching is very collaborative, and it does require the support of not only the coach, it requires the support of that boss, of those peers, of those superiors, of the advisor, of the mentor. And it is the responsibility of both the coach and the coachee to identify a strategy for that, and identifying those action-oriented plans that really translate into gained value over time. The strength-based approach, it leverages strengths and focuses on how to enhance them while addressing areas for improvement. Lots of fun there. We make that a lot of fun. Time-bound intervention, we teach and we formulate and educate with our clients how to set a clear timeline and how to manage their emotions, their feelings, all that energy through that process of being able to better prioritize and delegate and meet those situations that help them to achieve, help them feel good about going into work every day. Getting in that process of regular feedback and getting comfortable with the uncomfortable and understanding how powerful that is when we get the gift of feedback and feed forward. Behavioral change, being open and understanding that behavioral change is an absolute gift, just like that feedback is. And as we go through it, it's not a process of saying, that was bad for me. It's a process of saying, that no longer works for me in this situation for these circumstances. And so adapting into and being able to really grow and strengthen those areas that you may already have and don't necessarily use, and leveraging those strengths so that you can therefore be a great leader and support your team. Real life application is invaluable. And in your organization, ensuring that you're getting the right type of work assigned to you, getting on the right projects so that you truly can be effective and make a difference and support those strategies. Being in a supportive environment, again, it's a very wholesome approach. Measurable outcomes, absolutely. Coaching has KPIs and we can measure this. It is tangible. It takes a lot of work, it takes time, and it is very tangible. Continuous learning. The beauty of this is that we never know what we don't know, and there's always an opportunity to learn more because we don't know what we don't know. So that's the beauty of this, is that even at the executive level, we're still learning and being able to stay in that game of improvement, self-improvement, and evolution. The manager's involvement, I mentioned. Cultural considerations, so tailoring the approach to align with the organization's cultures and values and leadership expectations, as well as the individuals as well. And so we work globally, and we come across all kinds of geographical, cultural minutia that comes into play. We come across organizational culture that comes into play as well, and those levers. And all of that is part of the formula. It's part of the roadmap. It's part of the strategy. Ethical and confidential, Lynn mentioned those, and those are invaluable. Feedback loops, and so understanding the systems for that communication, the sustainability of this, so aiming to create that lasting positive change that continues to benefit the leaders or executives or employees' performance and growth over a long period of time, is often fueled by a great talent management strategy, which is a whole nother podcast. Evaluation and iteration and continual improvement. And those fuel things like grow models, solution-focused coaching, strength-based coaching, cognitive behavioral coaching, emotional intelligence coaching, appreciative inquiry, neuroscience-informed coaching, goal-setting theory, motivational inventory, transactional analysis, behavioral coaching, integral coaching. And then it also dives into some of the psychological principles of self-determination theory, goal-setting theory, cognitive behavioral principles, positive psychology, social learning theory, motivational interviewing. Gosh, there's so much. Emotional intelligence, stages of change model. So you can see why a creditable professional coach has dove into this research. They understand it. They're certified and accredited in these, and they utilize them. They leverage these. This is where we are able to customize. And by the way, there's more on this list that I just don't want to take all the time to dive into, but we definitely can talk about in a consultation appointment with you. They're valuable. And it is also where we align, because the more we understand about the situations with these individuals in the organization and where the organization is at, we're better able to align those. And building in some of these KPIs that definitely measure and affect lead generation, conversion rates, client retention, return on investment, client satisfaction surveys, brand awareness, thought leadership metrics, social media engagement. Believe it or not, most of our leaders and executives and employees who are going through coaching often go back to their social media, and it evolves with them. So keep that in mind. There's website traffic and conversions, referral rates, there's competitive benchmarking. So you can see how it touches a lot of the different functionalities of the organizational strategy. And talent management strategies such as executive coaching, leadership coaching, and the types that we mentioned absolutely play out to goals and goal attainment and goal achievement and getting results. So again, this is simply complex. And Lynn, it's amazing when we talk about these things, because it also sets the tone for the difference between internal and external professional coaching. These methodologies, these theories, these best practices, and these concepts sometimes are within the organization, and sometimes the organization or business needs to go get them. And what does that mean? And therefore, you definitely want to identify and think about how you're strategizing your coaching and your coaching strategies for your employees, and those services that are delivered to the individuals, whether it's internally or independently contracting out a coach or a coaching firm or consultants to be able to do these programs, to implement, facilitate, administer, coach, all of those roles. And so you want to consider, are the employees of the organization who internally can take on those roles of coaching. Are they accredited? Are they certified? Do they fully understand how it's aligned to the organizational strategies? So many times it comes out of HR, or it's HR professionals or managers, sometimes designated individuals, but they are trained and they are certified. Externally, again, Lynn listed out very specifically why it's important to hire a highly qualified coach and what that can mean to your organization. She also talked about the relationship of that, of the coach with the coachee. So internally, the biggest issue that we see is that the organization does not give enough time to that manager or that designated employee to do the coaching that's needed. And so when it comes down to the effort that it takes to coach individuals within the depths and complexities of all these theories and methods, sometimes internal coaching is a challenge, and sometimes it's the best approach. And so therefore we can come in and help with that strategy, or if you need us to come in and do the coaching for you, we can come in and work with you on that as well. And external coaches typically have no prior relationship with the coachee, and it can provide a more neutral and confidential space. Again, Lynn talked about trust being foundational in that relationship. Organizational knowledge, of course, internally, you would suspect that these individuals that you're selecting internally would have that organizational knowledge from the philosophy and strategies, goals and objectives, all the way down through the units or business departments and into where that employee that's being coached and what those initiatives are and those goal attainment needs are, and then working with that individual to better understand where those areas for improvement are. So that's a deep understanding, and it takes a bit. It takes a needs assessment. It takes a lot of energy, a lot of dialogue, a lot of good conversation with the coach and the coachee to really narrow it down and get specific so that there is effectiveness. And then externally, of course, we've got those processes. We've got those methods and strategies. We've got those theories we can bring to the table, the exercises, the content, the thought leadership. And so we package that up and meet that on a very customized level. And that's what's needed when you're seeking that external. And then just objective focused, making sure that you're aligning the right goals for those types of internal or external programs. Cost considerations and resource considerations, of course, internally. It may look more cost effective initially. And this is what we find most of the time is initially they think it's more cost effective. And then they find that, again, that individual that was assigned to it just doesn't have the time or bandwidth because of their job role to be able to meet the needs of those coachees. So be mindful of that and make sure that you give that individual that's assigned the space and the scope for them to be able to do that job so that there is the level of effectiveness you're seeking. Externally, you may have to just negotiate and manage those costs. Consider, though, the effectiveness and the efficiency that this is going to provide your organization in regards to time and expense. And it definitely plays out that with volume and also with length, that there are benefits to this. Also, internally, your organization may not have the accreditation or the certification in some of these methods that are needed for your organization. And so therefore, externally, you're going to find that. And I think you'll find that in our organization as well. Flexibility, scalability. Therefore, internally, you may have budget constraints, or you may have that open budget where you're able to scope this out and scale it up over a long period of time. And then externally, the flexibility in terms of engaging coaches with specifics specific expertise, and allows the organization to scale those initiatives more easily based on those goals. Confidentiality. It sometimes is a concern internally because of the politics, because of the culture. So keep that in mind, and you can manage that as well. Externally, that we prioritize confidentiality. And if your consulting firm does not, then that's a red flag, definitely. It's part of our professional ethics, and it's very, very valuable. Coachees often feel more secure in sharing sensitive information with someone external to the organization. And that is a research, a statistic that we know is very, very true. And then having access to diverse perspectives. So internally, a coach may bring a deep understanding of the organization, but may lack the exposure to the diversity of the industry and the perspectives. Externally, the coach could have experience, could have deep understanding and research working across the various industries, which we bring to the table, I'm proud to say, and bringing diverse perspective and best practices that can be beneficial to the coachee and the organization. So each of these are unique unto their own, and they are an approach that needs to be considered for your strategy, and they have their advantages and considerations. And organizations often choose the approach that's best aligned with their strategy, their goals, their culture, their philosophies, and available resources. So resources being money, time, and of course, people. So they may utilize a combination of both internal and external with their strategy as well. So keeping all that in mind, the way in which you do that, the methods, the strategy, the concepts, the best practices, some of these do apply with internal and external. And next, Lynn, I want you to dive into the pros and cons, because it's become so prevalent since COVID, but the pros and cons of in-person versus virtual coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving from the strategy of your coaching program and how it works in your talent management strategy, which is driving your business strategy, is the tactical of, okay, is this going to be virtual? Is this going to be in person or face-to-face? Or is this going to be hybrid of that? There's pros and cons, and we help companies determine which works better. So with virtual professional coaching, hey, a big pro is you can be anywhere, and we can enter into coaching. Now, virtual, when I'm speaking virtual here, I'm meaning over a platform like Zoom or Teams. Occasionally, virtual may be over the phone. You wouldn't want a whole program of phone coaching unless it's with a country which really doesn't have the internet standards to be able to do face-to-face coaching or video coaching. So when we're referring here, as I'm talking about the pros and cons of in-person versus virtual, I'm speaking of a virtual delivery platform like Zoom or whatever. So first thing you're going to think of, hey, it's convenient and it's flexible. Virtual coaching is. It eliminates the need for travel. It allows both the coach and the coachee to participate at their preferred locations. That saves money. That saves time that's associated with travel. And also the accessibility, geographical regions. As Lori mentioned, we coach all over the world. It's not practical to do in-person coaching in Monaco all the time, even if you would love to. That's not going to happen. It's not practical for them. The client is not practical for the consulting firm either. So also the comfort and privacy. Some people just prefer the comfort and privacy of their own familiar surroundings, and it really helps them open up to coaching, and not having that need to commute or be in an unfamiliar setting is very important for them. Cost effectiveness, of course, with virtual, the travel cost that's associated really can drive cost up of programming. There are ways to mitigate that. There are ways, if a company really wants in-person training, there's a way to group the trainings together so travel is minimized for the coach themselves. Costs go down. Environmentally friendly, when you're reducing that need for travel, virtual coaching definitely has a lower carbon footprint if that's something that matters to you, and it does matter to a lot of people. There are cons, though. There's more potential for distraction virtually. The coachee's environment, noise, what's going on around them. I personally love when the cat enters the scene. I don't have one myself, but I enjoy that. It's really important with virtual coaching that the coachee is in a place where they can have the privacy, where they can be uninterrupted, where they're not actually looking at their watch or talking to their children or whomever may be in the office or in the home. Some people do virtual coaching from their offices, which are not located in their homes. Some people do virtual coaching from the beach side if they're on vacation. So virtual coaching can have many different avenues and ways. So the limited nonverbal cues, you see how much we see of each other verbally. Part of the cues, though, verbal and nonverbal, can be what's happening with their feet. What are they doing with the rest of their body? And that can be more limited than in person. Though I will say, if you're coaching and you're sitting at a table, you're not going to see what's happening in the lower body, probably even if you're in person. So also the technological challenges, this day and age, they're less for most countries. For some countries, technological challenges can still be a pretty big factor. Again, but for most of the folks that we coach, technology is not really an issue anymore. But being mindful that it can be a disadvantage or a potential pitfall. And then some people just prefer that in-person connection. It's just how they do better, how they learn better, how they grow better. The face-to-face interaction is just their preference. By the way, there are others who really prefer virtual and for whom those components are the most important. For in-person coaching, there are multiple pros. It does have that propensity for that stronger personal connection. Though we're here to say you can form a very strong personal connection with coaching someone and never having met them in person. But there is the ability, you have to work at that harder when it's virtual than when it's in person. Again, the nonverbal cues in in-person coaching, you see most of those, you see everything that's going on. There's a focused environment when it's in person. The distractions are fewer usually. And then engaging activities. In-person coaching sessions can incorporate those interactive activities and exercises and those physical materials. Though there are workarounds and ways to incorporate those physical materials and activities in virtual coaching as well. Cons, travel and logistics for in-person training. We've talked about that, or in-person coaching. The limited availability of suitable meeting places. Today's business environment is surely different than it was 3 years ago. And the day when every leader had an office has become more and more. Every leader has an office a day or two a week, or every leader has an office that they may share with other leaders, or it's open space, or it's different for a lot of leaders. So the limited availability of a suitable place to meet can be. We've done restaurants. You want to make sure you scope out the restaurant and know that's not our preferred, but we have done that. The cost is higher for in-person if it involves travel for the coach or the coachee or both. The cost will be higher. And then again, if you care about the environmental impacts, that would be have a higher, what do they call it, carbon footprint. I think something that very commonly comes about in a coaching program is a hybrid. There are those that you coach totally face-to-face because it's easy. They're close by. It's easy for you to get together with them. There are those where it's totally virtual because that doesn't exist. And then there are those where an in-person coaching session happens on occasion, and there are more virtual sessions. So hybrid is definitely a model that we've been very successful in. And, virtual is a model we've been very successful in, and in-person is a model that we've been very successful in. So again, when we talk about bespoke programming, coaching program, it even includes the delivery mechanism or how it will happen, whether in person or virtually. but we wanted to be sure to include things for you to think about when it comes to making that choice and that decision on which it will be.
Excellent. And so move right into some of the common reasons to hire a coach, a professional coach.
The number one reason I personally would hire a professional, a coach, is to become overall more effective, my leadership effectiveness, or more effective at whatever I'm trying to achieve. But companies hire professional coaches, individuals hire professional coaches, business owners, entrepreneurs, and there are many reasons why. The number one, leadership development. Improve their communication, their decision making, their strategic thinking, overall, how effective they are as leaders. That's a really important reason. Accountability and motivation. Having a professional coach can really impart that sense of accountability and motivation for executives, for leaders, for business owners. Coaches really help them stay focused, committed, and on track. Strategy and alignment. Coaches can provide valuable insights and support to organizations, business owners, entrepreneurs in areas like business strategy, marketing, positioning, team building, scaling their operations for growth. So that type of professional coaching is very real and very powerful. Onboarding or promotions. Say you're onboarding a new leader, a new senior leader, a new executive leader. How are you going to onboard them to help them be the most successful they can be at the most quickly that can possibly happen? So when leaders are transitioning to new leadership roles, or they're being promoted, or they've joined a new organization, often they will, or their companies will, hire an executive coach to help them navigate the challenges of the transition itself, to understand the organizational culture, and to really accelerate their integration into the new position so they can really accelerate the amount of time it takes for them to add real value to the organization. Companies do it for succession management as well. Organizations often engage coaches to prepare high potential leaders for that next role. And if it's in succession, to have ready now leaders for those critical roles that are in the succession management plan. Succession is a huge reason for leadership coaching. Change management or change leadership. If you're a leader, you've been in the position of driving the bus 100 miles an hour down the Autobahn and changing the tires at the same time. You've been in that position of leading big change while you're going through it yourself at the same time. So change management, change leadership are definitely reasons to hire a professional coach. Can really help leaders navigate the complexities of the change, to manage the resistance that's going on, to effectively communicate and implement the desired changes that I mentioned, effectively communicate and change leadership. What and how you communicate is so very important. And a coach can really help you with your communication plan and your tactics and the way you deliver, your delivery mechanisms personally in change and transition. If you want to retain the best employees, if you want to gain the best employees, you want to engage the best employees, every survey out there says it's directly linked to the effectiveness of the leaders of the corporation. People want to go work with great leaders. People want to keep working with great leaders, and they stay. And that's who you want to keep. You don't want to fall into the model of the leaders, the people, the employees who are staying, the leaders who are staying are your less effective ones. They want to be your most effective with the most potential. And what they really want, study after study shows, they want development. They want coaching. Coaching is not in the old days anymore where it was punishment. And the last thing we're going to do before we fire you, coaching is we're wanting to invest in you because you're that valuable to us. And we want you to see any potential pitfalls. We want to make you become a ready now leader for that next big role that we have in mind for you. And really, leaders are so excited to engage in training and coaching for those reasons. Performance management. Companies may hire coaches to work with underperforming coaches or leaders, not those that are failing and on the brink of extension, but those who could be more effective. Lori and I focus on and we specialize in helping successful leaders and people be even more successful leaders and people, helping successful organizations become even more successful. We're about maximizing excellence. And so coaches can really help in performance management, the maximization from good to great, from great to excellent, from excellent to stellar, and all of the incremental movements. There's always room for improvement. And last but not least, which I will talk about, and we certainly encounter it with the folks that we coach, is work-life balance, work-life integration, work-life balance. Leaders may seek coaching to better manage their work-life balance, to reduce the stress, to develop strategies for greater fulfillment in life. If we ask every leader what they want when we're talking about this, they want joy. They want joy in being. It's not something you think of when you think of what I want in leadership. I want to be satisfied. I want to be more than satisfied. I don't want to survive this. I want to thrive in this. I want joy in my life. I want joy in my work life. And how do I do that? How do I obtain that? And great coaches can really help people obtain that work-life balance. Those are some of the strategies that I had in mind to talk about. There are many more and many more reasons why coaches are hired by professionals, as individuals, by companies, by businesses, by entrepreneurs. It's an important thing. And it's something Lori and I excel in and absolutely love to do.
We sure do, Lynn. We sure do. You know, I want to dive a little bit into one of the things that we start with, and that is assessments, and just talk about some of the most common assessments that are used in coaching. And we definitely use some of these and more. I just want to make that statement up front. We have many more than this.
I'll just add, Lori, we have 28, I believe, on our list.
Yeah. So I'm going to give you 12 of the most common here. So they can be priceless. Assessments are priceless. They're absolutely upfront. If you're hired a coach and they're not assessing up front before they start the progress of developing and identifying goals and developing behaviors that and working with habits to help you support that, it may not be the most effective journey. And so assessments can be that valuable tool in professional coaching because it provides the insights into the individual's strengths, their areas for development, and overall performance opportunities. And again, always with alignment. And the choice of assessments should align with the coaching goals, the individual's needs, and of course, the organizational's context. So let's talk about some of the common administered and debriefed. And so assessments, again, the coaching happens once we identify the data. And most importantly, we get not a lot of times, every now and then we'll get an individual that's deathly afraid of taking an assessment. And they've got this stigma that this assessment's going to give them all this negative information and they just don't want to hear it. You know, that's the last thing they want is negative feedback, negative self-talk. They don't want to dive into that emotional state of understanding. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It's none of that. And the beauty of assessments is that the individual gets to dive in and they get to be honest. They get to be open. They get to be responsive. They get to be in and put themselves into, this is why that state of readiness and that openness and willingness really does matter, because they get to feed the system the information that's needed in order for the output to be factual, the output to be truthful. And the data that comes into these reports, and we're able to debrief and then coach in those coaching sessions. It's amazing to see the evolution of behavioral change, the evolution of seeing bad habits eliminated and great habits realized. And therefore, that person with their self-worth and their ability to leverage and maximize their strengths and their abilities, to understand the true definitions of these competencies and skills and how they correlate and are relative to the work that they do as described in their job description, as well as some of these additional responsibilities that they take on, sometimes politically, sometimes socially, sometimes culturally within the organization. But we all do that. And therefore, these assessments become invaluable. They become priceless. And so we often will do a 360-degree feedback with our executives and our leaders. And this assessment gathers feedback from multiple sources, from external to internal. It could be superiors, it could be direct reports, it could be peers and others. And it definitely provides a comprehensive view of an individual's performance, leadership style, and interpersonal skill sets in a period of time. And it gives us a framework and a roadmap to be able to open it up and discover and identify these strengths, and also those areas for growth, those areas for learning, those areas for leveraging. And in that process, we help that individual identify those opportunities as well for those interpersonal relationship growth as well. And it truly does shift the dynamic of the outcomes, the consequences, the results that become important in achieving and co-creating and collectively getting results. The personality assessment, like DISC, Myers-Briggs, the Big Five, all of those help identify the individual's ability to better understand their personality preferences, their communication styles, and their potential areas for growth. Strength-based assessments like Gallup Strengths Finders or VIA Character Strengths, and there's a few others, that focuses on developing and maximizing existing strengths for enhanced performance. So there's uniqueness to each one of these. And I always share with our clients, think of it as a quilt when you sew them together, and the beautiful landscape of a quilt, or even the layering of a cake, and how you cannot have this beautiful 12-layer chocolate cake without the layering and the structuring of that. So think of it that way. We do emotional intelligence and agility assessments, and these are very important competencies with leadership in general. Measuring an individual's ability to perceive, to understand, and to manage feelings and emotions in oneself and others. And again, these are things that are very foundational in working in a company and being able to enjoy your job, that place of joy, and understanding that you can take on these challenges and these situations and these circumstances and really truly put your best to the table each and every time without exhausting yourself. Leadership assessments. So we identify leadership practices, and we do a leadership practice inventory, or a leadership authenticity model, or a leadership effectiveness analysis. These provide insights to competencies and guide leadership development. Conflict style inventories. So tools like the Thomas Kilmann conflict model. It helps individuals understand their preferred conflict resolution style, fostering better conflict management and collaboration. We can also do behavioral and cognitive assessments as well that help with some of this. Communication intelligence assessments. These are very, very key to help the individual understand their communication style, their preferences, how they adapt, how they're resilient, their logic over time, their goal attainment over time, and also what we call the human battery, and that's the emotions and the feelings and how they play out. So this definitely plays into, as you're progressing and as you're achieving this co-creative, collaborative approach and team building, it plays out significantly. And we can also not only do this at an individual level, but we do this at a group level as well. And then we also can do this with partnering one-to-one. So if we've got individuals, we can do comparison reports, or we can do comparison reports between groups. So that plays into some of the valuable data that helps organizations and people grow. Career assessments, so tools such as the strong interest inventory, again, those personality assessments or career reports, those assist individuals in exploring career preferences, identifying suitable roles, and making informed, data-driven, informed career decisions based on their input, their assessment answers, not what Lori and Lynn says or Harris Whitesell Consulting says. Very, very valuable to help that individual create that pathway for growth and for enjoyment in their career. Of course, goal setting and motivational assessments. We can dive into, there's a variety of those, and we've got those. We also do core value analysis as well, in helping especially leaders identify their own personal core values and then how they are relative and how they align to the company's core values as well. And that's a really fun process to go through. There's a lot of validation and a lot of self-awareness that comes out of that process as well. Then the stress and resilience assessments, absolutely. There's lots of different profiles for that. Connor David resilience scale, the stress resilience profile. And these help with stress levels, coping mechanisms, and overall resilience. Communication intelligence also does that as well. Time management assessment. We always say manage your energy to your priorities. So there's that process of being able to take a look at your job description and all your priorities and helping that individual leader or individual employee with their career process identify those milestones that are needed and stepping back into letting them manage their preferences and their strengths and their challenges that enhance their ability to be more productive and engage at higher levels for work-life balance as well. And then change readiness, which Lynn mentioned, and this is important, change leadership as well. Those change styles indicators that help individuals and teams identify preferences and approaches. And all of these that are mentioned here, plus all the other ones that we do, what I love about it and what I think is very valuable for each of our clients, even the organizations we work with, are the recommendations that come with a lot of this data. Again, science-based, there's science approach, there's evidence-based in all of this. So it's essential for coaches to carefully select the types of assessments based on specific coaching objectives, the individual's context, the organizational goals, and then debriefing process is crucial in that it involves open, very vulnerable dialogue and discussion around these results and guidance through that, exploring the implications of that and collaboratively developing. So it's not the coach saying you absolutely need to do this. It is a collaborative approach to develop those action plans for their development and growth. The debriefing session should be conducted in a supportive and constructive manner. It should be a private, confidential, with no disruption. And it encourages reflection, growth, and facilitation of positive change that's lasting over a period of time, and seeking that there is alignment as well. So with this, assessments play a significant role up front. And Lynn, as we're talking about this up front, we're going to take another step back, and I want you to dive into the state of readiness. So we're kind of like, what were those tools used back in the day to flame the fire? The bellows?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. You know how you push them in and you pull them out? That's kind of what we're doing right now. We're pushing in and pulling out with this.
Or you take a little straw and you blow on it like they do in Survivor, the little fire flame.
So let's dive into state of readiness and talk about that some.
Okay. State of readiness of the coachee is paramount, period. Lori and I don't coach people who are not ready to be coached. If you don't want coaching, we don't perform coaching. It will not be successful. Paramount is a state of readiness. And what does a state of readiness look like in that context? The first thing I thought of was, and I have a notes because I want to make sure I didn't leave any out in this time, was openness to change. Coaching is most effective and really only effective when the coachee is open to change, when the leader is ready to self-reflect, or when they are wanting personal and professional growth. If the coachee is not ready to embrace new perspectives or to modify their behaviors, the coaching program, the coaching process will be ineffective. Readiness is also indicated, or a sign of readiness is commitment and motivation. Successful coaching requires a very high level of commitment and motivation from the coachee. If the coachee is not fully invested in the process, lacks the commitment and follow through, progress is going to be limited for your coaching. Self-awareness. Coaching relies very heavily on the coachee's ability to engage in self-reflection. And as Lori mentioned, not be afraid of self-reflection, but to engage in it and to embrace it and to seek out that greater self-awareness through self-assessment. If the coachee lacks self-awareness or is unwilling to explore their blind spots, of which we all have blind spots, it becomes very difficult for the coach to facilitate any kind of meaningful growth with the coachee, with the leader. We talked about it. Lori's talked about it. I've talked about it, and I'm going to talk about it again. Goal clarity. Goal clarity, a clear understanding of the leader's goals, the coachee's goals, their desired outcomes. It's essential for coaching. If the coachee is unsure or uncertain about their goals, the coaching process will lack focus. And when it lacks focus, it lacks efficiency and effectiveness. So goal setting between the coach and the coachee, and the company that's hiring, if it's an organizational coaching, also will have goals for that coaching. Want this person to be prepared to step in the role, and this is the gaps that have been identified. Let's fill the gaps could be a reason. But goal clarity, receptiveness to feedback. Very important that this leader that's undergoing coaching or we're looking to put into a coaching program is receptive to feedback, because guess what? Coaching involves feedback. And if you're not receptive, then the coaching is not going to be very effective. The feedback comes both from the coach and through the coachee's, the leader's own self-reflection. If the coachee is not receptive to feedback, or is defensive, or is afraid of feedback, their ability to learn and to grow, it's really going to be hindered. So that is another sign of readiness or lack of readiness. Trust and vulnerability. Oh, vulnerability. Oh, that's a word. Leaders aren't supposed to be vulnerable, are they? Yes, they are. Leaders build teams. Leaders build themselves by the cornerstone of exhibiting and showing their teams and themselves vulnerable trust. Building trust in a safe environment is crucial for coaching. If the coachee is not ready to be vulnerable, not ready to open up about their challenges, their fears, their weaknesses, the coaching relationship is going to get on the struggle bus, because vulnerability is very, very important for coaching and for the openness of that leader to be vulnerable so they can learn and grow. Accountability, we've talked about this one, taking responsibility, being accountable. The coaching relies on the coachee's willingness to be held accountable, to hold themselves accountable for their actions, for their commitments. With that, you don't get progress. And without progress, again, the coaching program is not going to be as effective as it could have been. And then I've also listed here, and it's the last one that I've listed here, is learning agility. Coaching requires the coachee to develop new skills, to adapt and adopt new mindsets, and to adapt to and to utilize those new skills and those new mindsets. And so that takes an amount of learning agility and a lack of resistance to learning and growing and to the approaches that are being given. It's on the coach to know which approach will work best with this leader. It's on the leader, aka the coachee, to then fully take that in and to be open and to be curious and to be committed to learning. So that without that, there's a limit to that. So when that coachee, when that leader is in that state of readiness and they want it, and it's characterized by that openness, by that commitment, by the self-awareness, by a willingness to learn and to grow, the coaching itself can be nothing short of transformative. Transformation happens when we're in that real, honest, vulnerable coaching readiness state.
Powerful.
Powerful.
Life changing.
That's what coaching is. It's most powerful. And Lori, yes, life changing.
Yeah.
Because we are, as a leader, we're both leaders. A lot of people on this call today are leaders. People listening in are leaders.
I have a coach.
Yeah. And we're also human beings. We're humans. We're humans.
Right.
Every human, I think, can benefit.
Dang it, we're a human being a human.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So let's wrap this up. This has been a long podcast, but very, very important. And so we want to recognize that to all of you. And we're going to definitely segment this for you so that you can click on these various topics and segments and you can piecemeal this particular podcast. Very important to talk about each and all of these segmented topics that are related to coaching, professional coaching. The last is, of course, the benefits and the tangible results that are achieved when there is a great coaching experience. And when you hire a great coach, and when the coachee has had a very transformative and powerful experience over time. So let's dive into that. Lynn, why don't you go first? I'll chime in every now and then.
I'll list, Lori, a few that came to my mind. First and foremost is that increased self-awareness of the strengths, the derailers, the blind spots, that greater emotional intelligence, the ability to self-regulate and motivate and have empathy will impact every single part of your life, not just your professional life. Leaders will be more effective at influencing, at inspiring, and certainly not least of it all, developing others, because we know that's what people want. The ability to have more courageous conversations, the ability to have more intellect in the way that you converse, to be intelligent about your communication, strategies for managing stress and burnout and rust out and work-life balance, not only for themselves as leaders, but for those that they lead who are looking for that. To develop the resilience that you talked about, Lori, and the flexibility and the ability to lead through change, and overall unlock their fullest leadership potential, maximizing excellence.
So I'm gonna approach this from kind of a unique approach. I went back and I went through a bunch of my notes when we decided to do this podcast, and I knew it was going to be complex. So I went back through all these years and I looked at some of the feedback that I've gotten from my coachees, right? And some of the stuff that you sent me from the results and feedback that you've gotten from your coachees as well. And they talked to it from a feeling, how they felt. So some of the feelings were, they were excited. They were excited about the prospect of, and the ability to, and the engagement in, the participation of. So they got excited. They were really excited. And then where there was apprehension and nervousness, there became courage and there became confidence, the levels of confidence that came out of that. So there was that transformation. There was this deep, and over and over and over again, the feeling of, you guys always made me curious. You made me think about this from a variety of perspectives. The questions that you asked, they were deep questions. And often in the sessions, you would ask them and, we would go through the process, but I kept thinking about them and it kept evolving for me. These were things that Curiosity gave me the ability to explore, not just at that moment, but over time. I'm reading from my notes here. The new perspectives and approaches that evoked sense of curiosity and gave me a higher ability to learn. So the ability to speed up and accelerate my learning. That kind of feedback was priceless, right? The ability to move out of resentment and anger and fear and shift into responsiveness, responsibility, getting out of distortive, dysfunctional behavior and moving into behavior that became highly effective, which resulted in co-creation, which results in collaboration. Here's relief. Many or some felt a huge relief to validate, because for so long they felt that they had these strengths and they never really understood how to maximize them in various situations and scenarios. And when they got vulnerable and began to talk about that, the validation that that was a true strength of theirs, and then begin to exercise and practice that, and the evolution of changing that into a habit that was positive and lasting for them. Many said how empowered they were, just that they didn't rely upon others to validate them any longer, that this was a self-empowerment process for them because they became better in tune with their authentic selves and their ability to go in and do the job well and do it with joy, like you mentioned earlier. They took frustration, like I talked about, anger and frustration, and they shifted that out into a place of patience and perseverance that become crucial for the emotional attributes that are needed, especially when you're in teams, and helping them better manage those emotions. Many of them said that they were highly satisfied. And for us, Lynn, what I love is many of our clients keep coming back for more. And so we have the challenge of helping them evolve even further and taking them into new realms of development. And where I find not just the renewed confidence and the courage, the wisdom attainment, they felt like they could go and share this leadership now. It was no longer this authoritative, titled, power type thing. It was absolutely where they felt, gosh, I've got a lot to offer others and I want to help others. So that shared leadership became important in this process as well. And they were better able to manage uncertainty and ambiguity because of a higher awareness of resilience and how to better manage that. And some of the key tactics and techniques in not just communication, but also in their own competency and skills around uncertainty and ambiguity, and shifting out of fear and moving into that space of co-creation and seeing things happen through them rather than at them. Very, very powerful. And ultimately, man, when we talk about the ultimate, not just joy, but there was gratitude, appreciative inquiry that we talked about earlier. And ultimately, people started using the word love. I love my job. I love working with these people. You know what? I love this result that we got. And it was amazing to see that written in their responses. The word love came out quite often when I did word bubbles and when I sourced a lot of the data to see these very powerful words that come across. Most of them, by the way, are action verbs that come out. And you and I both know how important it is to have verbs driving your goals. And therefore, for me personally, with some of mine, and I know you'll agree with, I see you nodding your head a little bit, when we actionize these positive habits and we begin to see the impact that we make, not just for ourselves, but for those that we co-create with in this company, in our communities, in our families, it's life-changing, and it's very, very positive. So I wanted to come at it from a different perspective. And then, Lynn, I want you lastly to talk about, and I'll chime in if I've got a list here too that I made, but from an organizational perspective, what are the tangible benefits that they see?
Tangible benefits from an organization are, frankly, your strategy is supported by your talent. Your talent, your people are supported by leaders. The ultimate benefit to an organization is increased profitability, increased growth. These are real things that are really measured. Increased productivity, increased performance of people, enhanced skill sets, innovation goes through the roof. People are more balanced, and so they give more, the discretionary effort, because they want to give it. And rather than I clock in at 9, out at 5, which become, they want to give the discretionary effort. They're energized by the work that they're doing because they feel authentic, and they feel they have clarity, and they feel like whole people. Organizations benefit tremendously financially. There is a cost. There is a cost whether you do it internally or externally. There's cost. Cost is not just money. It's time. It's opportunity cost. The benefit far outweighs the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about this? In my mind goes to a couple keywords, but strategic alignment to your brand purpose, alignment to your company philosophies, alignment to your strategy and goals, like you mentioned. Just the overall leadership impact is enormous.
It's multiplied. It's multiplied.
Yeah. And think about, the book that comes to mind is The Great Workplace. Credibility, integrity, trust, those key behaviors all of a sudden are on the increase. They're enhanced, they're leveraged, and it's not forced. It's something that's embedded in the culture. It becomes more affiliative, more achieving. It moves out of the passive defensive and aggressive defensive behaviors and moves into that very constructive culture, and where people are feeling valued and they're feeling included. And therefore, because of that, they are participating, they are engaging, and they are enjoying. They're enjoying themselves and their process. They're enjoying working with others, and they're appreciative that there is this very diverse group of people that are leading the way and making things happen for this organization. So the integrity and just the personalization, the amount of thought leadership that comes from that, the brand equity. And ultimately, is it not always about relationships? So let me say this: does it improve relationships? 100%.
And I'd add to that, Lori, it really, really improves team effectiveness, and work gets done by people. And those people are usually in teams. But when these leaders now know how to build that trust and get that commitment, get the ideas out there on the table, people are responsible and accountable, and they're getting the collective results of the entire team working together, there's bottom line effects.
Huge, huge. And the number one asset of any organization is its people, as we always say. So, today was an amazing conversation, Lynn. Thank you for coming on and doing this podcast today. I know it's a long one. Again, we're going to segment this, and in the future, we'll be cutting this up and chopping this up a little bit. But I think it was a good one, and I think it was comprehensive and complex as it needed to be. And therefore, we offer a lot to these organizations that we get the honor and the privilege of working with and for. And I think that the value that is added because we co-create, because we are bespoke, because we are dedicated and really dive in and align their philosophies, their mission, vision, values, their strategic vision. And we work with those individuals to truly optimize the talent so that they can be more effective and efficient in their strategies, as well as being able to collaborate collectively to get those results. And in the meantime, be able to adapt and be resilient as uncertainty happens, as crisis happens. And within that, I think every organization, at least everyone that I've ever talked to, has always wanted that. Yeah. Any last remarks that you want to make?
This journey of talent management and maximizing excellence, couldn't think of a better journey to be on than helping other people, leaders, executives and organizations, business owners, entrepreneurs along that journey. Aren't we lucky? Fortunate.
Love what we do.
Yes, we do.
Yes, I love what I do, and I love doing it with Lynn and our team. And I thank everyone today for your patience and for your ears today. I look forward to any feedback. Please feel free to send an email to info@harriswhitesellconsulting.com. Please visit our website at harriswhitesellconsulting.com, and please follow us on LinkedIn at Harris or HW Consult. And if you have any questions from today, you are more than welcome to reach Lynn or I through LinkedIn. We're happy to talk with you. Our phone number is +1 910 409 0202. And thank you again. We look forward to coaching you and your teams anytime soon. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Maximize Excellence. Visit our events page on our website for details on upcoming podcasts, and visit our YouTube channel to listen to past episodes. And remember to ask yourself at the end of each day, did I do my best to maximize excellence today?